So this video is on advanced file manipulation in Linux. So we're going to go into a few more tools for manipulating text files, which allow us to do more interesting things than what we've done in the past. In particular, it allows us to chain things together using piping. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go back into the etc directory and type ls. There's just a lot of interesting stuff in the etc directory. That's why I'm here a lot. And let's take a look at the passwd file. How do I view a file? Do you remember that? Cat for concatenate can view multiple files at once, but we're just going to look at passwd, and it just spits out this is the text of that file. One thing that I can do is I can call the sort command on that file, and it spits out the text of the file, but it spits it out sorted. By default, it's going to sort alphabetically, or but you can manipulate that using these sort switches. Oh, remember, whenever you want to know what command options a command has, the two things you check are one, first start with running the command and -- help, and that will usually give you a short description. The other option is to use the man page, right? Man gives you a full view of everything it does. Man is very intense. Man is detailed. You usually don't need to go to that level of detail. And man, once you're in it, it works exactly the same way less does. So to leave, I use Q just the way I would with less. So I can give sort a file name, and it will sort that, or I can not give it a file name, and it will sort whatever I type in. So if I do sort, and then I just type in, hi there, Jim Bob, this line. And when I'm done, I hit Control D for end of file. Ooh, I'm on a Mac. And then it's resorted everything. So it started with the line that started with 1, and then D high. So it alphabetized the input. So sort can take things from what we call standard in. Whatever I type into the terminal is sent to standard in. Whatever it spits back out of me is standard out. And we're going to be able to redirect from that in a minute. But right now, just understand that. When I type cat and then the file name, and let's do, how about group? So what that did is it spit both the password file to standard out, and then it spit the group file. It spit the password file to standard out, and then it spits the group file to standard out, right? So there's a password file and there's the group file. I might like to sort both of those together. One way that I can do that is I can use a pipe. That's that straight up and down bar, probably above your enter key. You probably have to use shift. And I can pipe it into sort. And now when I hit enter, we see sorted everything from both files, right? The piping is the #1 most useful thing in Linux, because it means I can take the output of any command and make it the input of the next command. So I can chain them together. So I can cat those two files together, I can pipe it into sort, and then I can pipe that into tail, right? And it only gives me the last 10 lines of the sorted output. Or I can pipe it into head and get the first 10 lines. Or I can pipe it into, I can change things up. I can pipe it, let's pipe it into head, and then pipe that into sort. And we see it only takes the top 10 lines, and you'll notice this is all from passwd, because that was what came out to standard out first. So piping is really, really powerful and allows us to do really, really interesting things. Let's change it up. How about, instead of sending it into head, let's send it into grep, and let's search case insensitive for bash. No, let's search for root. and we'll pipe that into sort. And man, we see there are only 2 lines in both files that have root in it. But you can see the possibilities here with redirection, right? Or with piping. I can create huge complex statements on the command line that do really interesting things. All right, so that is piping. Comes up a lot. Redirection is another thing that we can do. Let me do this. I'm going to do ls-la, and we see we have this great big long list that's actually kind of hard for me to view, and I have to scroll up. And I might want to use that information at a later date. What I can do is do ls-la, and then do an arrow, and I'm going to do tilde slash file.txt. Now, what did I do there? Well, this is a path, and it's a path from my home directory. Remember, tilde means home, and in my home directory, I created a file called file.txt. This says, take whatever would be coming to standard out and send it into this file instead. So if I cd into my home directory and I type ls, we see file.txt there. If I do less file.txt to view it, we can see, oh look, here's all the output. Instead of being spit out to standard out, I spit it out to this file. That is called redirection. Redirection, immensely useful. It allows us to take the output of any command and make it a file. There are a few different kind of variations on redirection. Let's do something a little bit simpler. Let's do echo hey chump, right? And that just sends hey chump to standard out. If I redirect that into file.txt, now if I do cat file.txt, you see it contains hey chump. So it overwrote what was there and replaced it with the output of that command. If you don't want to overwrite it, if you just want to stick it on the end, you do 2 greater than symbols. And now when I view the file, we see that it's written there twice. You can also redirect standard in with the less than symbol, right? You don't do it as often. Normally you want to save the output, but sometimes you want to have a series of commands that you need to redirect, particularly if you're writing a bash script, which is more advanced than we need to get into. Also, sometimes you'll see this, ampersand greater than. What is ampersand? That means redirect the errors to another file. Okay, so you can redirect the output to a file, you can redirect the output and append it to a file, you can redirect the standard in to a particular command, and you can redirect the errors. That's really common if you want to save the errors to kind of go back and see what went wrong when you ran a very large, complicated command. All right, one last very important tool, and that is testfile.txt. So if I type ls, we see that I have desktop, example, and file.txt. And now I have testfile.txt. If I do cat testfile, we see that it contains the exact same output that we saw in standard in a minute ago. What is that? T is not tea as in like, drinking tea. It's tea as in a tea, right? Think of a pipe. So when I pipe the output of one command into T, T means I want to both view it on standard out and I want it to go to a file, which allows you to record intermediate steps into files at the same time as you continue to pipe it into the next command and do more complicated things. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about advanced file manipulation. Piping, the T command, redirecting standard out, redirecting standard error, and redirecting standard in. If you have any questions, let me know.